Okay. So welcome, everyone. I call the April 23rd, 2024 Landmark Preservation Meeting to order. We have the remote meeting format. Before we move on to agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge our hybrid meeting format. The City of Bothell is providing the option to attend this meeting either in person or remotely via Zoom. For those participating via Zoom, the chat and question functions are not available for use aren't. Okay. I thought they were available. Okay. To ensure compliance with the Public Meetings Act. We have public comment agenda item at the beginning of the meeting. This time is for comments on issues not on tonight's agenda. Please limit these comments to 3 minutes. Please note that the City of Bothell does not tolerate verbal harassment. Please remember this during your comments. Public comment will be allowed both in person and via Zoom. Those wishing to comment via Zoom were asked to submit an online form by 3 p.m. today. People wishing to submit written comments were also asked to submit these comments by 3 p.m. Email was encouraged as well and will be acknowledged. Those in attendance may also make comments and have been asked to indicate their desire to comment on the sign-in sheets. The Imagine Bothell notice, city website, and tonight's agenda all provided information to the public for providing comments. A call-in number was provided on the meeting agenda for members of the public who wish to call in by phone or listen live to the meeting. For our phone-in callers, during staff presentations, staff will make every effort to specify which materials they were referring to so everyone can follow along. Do we have the acknowledgement for the Indigenous lands on here?
No, we do not.
Okay. Are we not doing that, or is that?
That, we have not been doing that.
Okay.
That's something at the end of the meeting, you, as the board, could indicate that we would like to include moving forward in all future meetings.
Yeah, we've typically done it, so I'm just kind of noting that that's not on this format. Okay, attendees, at this point, we will take a moment to take roll call of the board members by position number. Please unmute your microphone and say here when I call your name. Position 1, Member Thomas.
Here.
Position 2, Member Baba Hajadov. See? Oh, okay. Not present. Position 3, Member Nelson. Not present. Position 4, Member Arula Jyothi. Not present. Position 5, Member Burgess.
Present.
Position 6, Member Salazar.
Here.
And position 7, Member Sompi here. In addition, the following city staff are in attendance. Nick Schmeck.
Here.
Eileen Kiefer, Madrona Law. Adam Alsobrook. Adam's here. Tom Hauser.
Tom is here, but he doesn't have the ability to speak currently.
Currently?
In the hybrid format.
Okay. Meeting guidelines. Before we begin, I'd like to reiterate some meeting guidelines. For all meeting attendees, please speak clearly and pause frequently. Mute your microphone when not speaking. Please state your name before speaking. For those making presentations, please pause periodically to ask if there are any questions. For board members, at the appropriate times, I will be calling on each member by position order, asking if they wish to speak or ask a question. I will also be doing this when it is time to vote. If you want to speak, please indicate by raising your hand. I will call you out as I see you. This will help avoid the problem of 2 people speaking at the same time. Identify yourself before you ask to speak. Make a motion or a second or second a motion or participate in debate. Please, excuse me, mute your microphone when not speaking. If there are any objections, please raise your hand. The first item on the agenda is non-agenda public comment. If there are any members of the public here, yes, they may speak now about items that are not on the agenda tonight. Nick?
Nick Schmeck, City of Bothell Staff Planning. I would like to note that there are no virtual members, and there are no callers in the lobby. However, it looks like we do have 2 people from the public sitting in the audience. Would either of you like to speak today? If you would like to either walk up to the podium, just a reminder that there will be no public comment in regards to our items on the agenda today. And if you haven't signed in, if you would do so, that would be, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
I signed in. My name's Terry Losh. I'm a long time, I was born here, and I'm in my 80s, so you got to give me some latitude. But I'm concerned that, interest rates are rising, and it doesn't look like they're going to be coming down soon. And I'm concerned that my grandparents or my grandkids are not going to be able to afford to live here. Everything we do as a city should be focused on affordability of living space that people buy for young people. And I think that we have some very talented individuals, architects in our within our city, and we should maybe design and build. Am I okay? We should design and build so that people can afford, the young people can afford to buy. We could do this by designing 400 to 600 square foot units in a multi-story building that are the appropriate size for a studio or even 1 or 2 bedroom units that people could buy for less than, say, $80,000. Because as it is now, housing here, I think we all know that a house in Bothell is averaging over $700,000. It's awful hard for a young person to come up with that kind of a down payment, much less make a payment on an income that most young people start out at. So this is something that we should focus on, I think. And we can do this. Now, you're a landmark preservation board, and we should not just preserve older buildings, but maybe look towards conversion of older space to condominium that people can afford. It shouldn't be that things are declared to be of historical significance that have no real purpose in making a quality of life here in Bothell. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the audience like to make a public comment today? No? All right. Hearing none, staff would like, Nick Schmeck, City of Bothell staff would like to say that no other commenters from the audience today or virtually. We can move on. Thank you.
Okay. So approval of the minutes, meeting minutes for the February 27th. Oh, that's right, because we didn't get last month's meeting.
That is correct. We will be approving the minutes from the last 2 meetings. Let's just start with the February 27th first.
Did you get a chance to look at it?
I guess staff would also like to add that for the record, both meetings have been, the video has been uploaded to the City of Bothell's YouTube page. And we are going to try to be doing that for moving forward on all new Landmark Preservation Board matters. So we, in front of you, have, as you reviewed in your packet prior to today, the minutes are action minutes, which has been our practice for this board. And once again, the recordings are being kept in our records, and we are now uploading those to the YouTube channel. Thank you.
Okay.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented, and I will comment that I did go in and look, and they are on YouTube, very definitely. Thank you.
Thanks for getting that done, Nick.
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I'm ready to vote. Oh, I've got to do it by the list. Sorry, we didn't used to do it that way. Okay, Member Thomas,
Aye.
Member Burgess,
Aye.
Member Salazar,
Aye.
Member Sompi, aye. The motion passes. Approval of the, we've done February 27th, so we need to do the same thing for March.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as printed from the March 26th regular meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the March 26th meeting. All in favor? Well, let me read through. Member Thomas,
Aye.
Member Burgess,
Aye.
Member Salazar,
Aye.
Member Sompi, aye. The motion passes. Old business. Mitigation for the proposed demolition of Northshore First National Bank Wells Fargo Building at 10210 Main Street, Bothell, Washington. Before we begin this item, I'll remind the board, as this item is a quasi-judicial matter that has not been concluded, the interim city attorney will be asking follow-up questions to the previous appearance of fairness questions asked at the February meeting on this matter. Further, board member Burgess is new, has not previously been asked the appearance of fairness questions. So the interim city attorney, would you please ask the board member the follow-up appearance of fairness questions?
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Eileen Kiefer, Madrona Law Group, Bothell's interim city attorney. Welcome, board member Burgess. As I guess an introduction, you get to answer the appearance of fairness questions, which the others had the fun of doing back in February. So we'll start with you, then we'll do follow-ups for the rest. Board member Burgess, do you have any interest in the property or the application or own property within 300 feet of the property subject to the proposal?
No, I do not.
Does your employer have an interest, financial or otherwise, in the outcome of this proceeding?
No.
Is there any prospective employment for you or a member of your family as a result of the outcome of this proceeding?
No.
Do you have any familial, social, or business relationships or connections with any of the parties or non-parties who have an interest in the outcome of this proceeding?
No.
Do you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this proceeding?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communications with either proponents or opponents of the proposal?
No.
And then finally, can you hear and consider the proposal tonight in a fair and objective manner?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that concludes Board Member Burgess's new appearance of fairness questions. I'll now ask the rest of the three follow-ups. You guys should know the drill by now. I'll start just in position order numerically. So, Member Thomas? Since the board's last meeting, have you had any additional ex parte communications about the proposal to be heard tonight?
No.
Okay. Since the last board meeting, have your answers to the other appearance of fairness questions changed?
No.
Okay. So do you believe you can hear and consider the proposal tonight in a fair and objective manner?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Salazar, are you ready?
Yes.
Board Member Salazar, since the board's last meeting, have you had any additional ex parte communications about the proposal?
No.
Okay. Since the last board meeting, have your answers to the other appearance of fairness questions changed?
No.
And can you hear and consider the proposal tonight in a fair and objective manner?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Following up with Acting Chair Sompi, or Vice Chair Sompi, Acting Chair, it's all fine. Since the board's last meeting, have you had any additional ex parte communications about the proposal?
No.
Since the last board meeting, have any of your answers to the other appearance of fairness questions changed?
No.
And can you hear and consider the proposal tonight in a fair and objective manner?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes the appearance of fairness questions.
Thank you, Interim City Attorney. Does anyone in attendance wish to challenge the participation of Board Member Burgess or another board member based on the appearance of fairness doctrine? If so, please raise your hand or a virtual hand if you're appearing remotely. When called upon, please state the name of the member and the reasons why you believe they should be disqualified for this matter. Please limit your statement to any reason or reasons you believe a board member should be disqualified only. We will hear all challenges first before any board member will have an opportunity to respond to such a challenge.
Looks like there are no challenges, both virtually and in the audience.
We will now have the applicant give their presentation, if any.
Staff would like to reverse the order of which and
Okay.
have staff go first, if that's all right with the board.
That's fine.
Fantastic. Once again, for the record, Nick Schmeck, planner for the city of Bothell. Today, we're just wanted to reiterate the timeline, the process, and kind of where we're at for the 102 Main demolition today, specifically for the mitigation for proposed demolition of the Northshore First National Bank Wells Fargo building at 10210 Main Street, Bothell. Per the Bothell Municipal Code 2228-060C, any application for demolition permit for a property on the historic inventory that has been determined to be eligible for the Bothell Register but has not been listed shall be referred to the board for negotiation of alternatives to demolition at the next regular scheduled meeting. On February 27th, 2024, the applicant successfully took care of that requirement. Moving on, the negotiations for the negotiation of those mitigation measures may last no longer than 40. Oh, my apologies. The negotiation for alternatives to demolition may last no longer than 45 days unless both parties agree to an extension. During the March 26th meeting of 2024, the applicant and the board did not agree to an extension, thus ending the first 45-day period. Moving on to where we are now. Since no alternative to demolition was found, the board may take up to an additional 45 days to develop mitigating measures, specifically to salvage significant architectural features of the building, install historic markers or plaques, or prepare publications that provide historical context for this site, and to confirm sufficient documentation of the building before the demolition permit is issued. The board is now in the second 45-day period. The Landmark Board has 45 days to develop mitigating measures with the applicant no later than May 10th, 2024. Please note that staff recommend that the board and the applicant, the board recommends mitigating measures today during the regular scheduled meeting, as May 10th would fall prior to the next regular scheduled meeting. If the board has any other questions for staff at this time of procedure, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Nick, now we go back to the,
Yeah, if the applicant would
Call
like
for
to
the
maybe
applicant.
just reiterate the mitigating measures that are on the board's docket today.
yeah.
I'm happy to share my screen if necessary.
Yeah, that'd be great, Nick. Yeah, if you could please flip over to page 26 for the mitigation overview. My name is Brian Paladar. I'm with Group Architect, also with Kevin Sokolowski from Group Architect as well. We're here to discuss just to briefly orient everyone to the mitigation features that have been proposed for the 102 Main Apartments project. Give Nick a chance here to find that sheet in there.
You said 26, correct?
26 of my, sorry, I forgot you have the combined version. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, so the project, this page illustrates the overview of the features that we proposed for mitigation on the 102 Main Apartments project. We have proposed 4 total features for the project. Feature number 1 was actually a salvage of the existing Wells Fargo Bank safety deposit boxes, which is one of the desirable mitigation options available to us on the project. Those boxes would be integrated into the architecture at the building entry located along 102nd Street, and that's feature number 1 on the overview in the lower left-hand corner. Feature number 2, as well as the other features 3 and 4, are all located along Main Street. Feature number 2 is an abstract wall mural that's a combination of wall art combined with a artistic rendition of the form and structure, conceptual structure of the building itself. The existing Wells Fargo building that was there. That wall feature also included a commemorative plaque, which is illustrated on the following page, signifying the prior architect Omer Methuen, as well as a brief statement about the history of the project. The courtyard that's created on Main Street holds mitigation features 3 and 4. So again, one of the typical mitigation features that's offered up is a historical sign. We've labeled that feature number 4, and surrounding that sign is also a commemorative structure mimicking the bypass features of the existing A-frame structure that is the 102, or the Wells Fargo building itself. The existing building's heavy timber construction is a difficult to impossible structure to actually reuse and salvage. So we opted instead to create a more durable version of that structure and express it in an artistic manner. And that's got some detail shown on the later pages as well. But our approach to the project has been to try and think about the mitigation features as an overall, comprehensive package of measures that are meant to illustrate the breadth of the project while also trying to contribute to the streetscape in the public realm. Subsequent pages in the packet have more detailed illustrations of each of the main features. Just briefly running through them, feature number 1, the safety deposit boxes, again, will be located at the building entry. The photo that's there is actually from the current vault situation, so you get an idea of what the existing structures are. The second page is the mitigation feature 2. The feature would be, again, as an abstract wall mural. Our vision is that this would be done in a Core 10 or similar kind of exterior grade metal, water laser cut with a series of backlit lighting so that the mural has some life in the night as well as during daylight time hours. And then mitigation feature 3 is the commemorative frame structure. Again, the photos of the existing building show the bypass nature of the wood timber framing that's there. The detailing renderings show what the actual metal structure would be like. So again, trying to mimic all of those structures while still building it out of a much more durable set of materials. And then lastly is the actual signage for the historical sign. We've proposed a large sign, approximately 2.5 by 6 feet, 7 feet, if I'm going off of memory here. But really on the next page, as, if we can scroll down just a little bit. There you go, thank you. The signage that's proposed there is really meant to feature two main things. A portion of the sign is dedicated to a study of downtown Bothell and the locations of the mid-century modernism and other buildings of that same architectural era and importance, as well as a feature page that really focuses more heavily on, obviously, the existing Wells Fargo / Northshore First National Bank. There's an illustration of the bank at its heyday in terms of its architectural integrity, went back when it was first originally built, and then also some in-depth explanation of the bypass detailing system, which is one of the prominent architectural features that's there. So again, we've tried to kind of capture everything from the location of the building in the local context, all the way to the type of building and its place within the style, as well as talking a little bit about Ober Methuen, the architect. There's a portion of it there on that same panel as well. And then getting into the nitty-gritty of actually the construction type and the detailing that's there. So with that, I'll turn it back to the board for clarifying questions and comments.
Okay.
Staff would like to remind the board that we are here today to discuss the mitigating measures in front of you. The board is welcome to discuss and have an ongoing dialogue with the applicant about the proposal in front of them. Staff would like to remind the board that we are no longer discussing alternatives to demolition as we are in the second 45-day period. And specifically, a reminder to the items of which fall within the purview of the mitigating measures as I read prior from the Title 22 Section 2228060C is within the features that are eligible for the mitigating measures are to salvage significant architectural features of the building, to install historic markers or plaques, or to prepare publications that provide historical context for the site.
Any comments from members?
Yes. On feature number 2, are these set in stone, or are there other options for a similar abstract wall mural?
The design that's here is the primary one that we've investigated. If there were, I guess, specific questions about alternatives for them, I guess we could follow back up on that. But we presented a few internal versions of the abstract murals to ownership. This is the architect presenting this back, and this is the one selected by ownership. So while other versions could be selected, we did feel that this version represented the simplicity of the architectural gesture from an abstract standpoint, while still respecting what it is. I mean, this is, to some degree, we are architects looking at it. We definitely respect the existing structure that's there and want to express it in simple but honest terms.
Thank you.
Ray, do you have any comments? Okay. I do have a comment on the interpretive signage, and that's that as much as I really like the reflection you made on the mid-century modern and the role in the downtown area and in Bothell, in all of our communities, we're particularly in many ways looking forward to giving credence to this, particularly for this building. I do have a very great desire to see the previous historic references to this site, the former church and the other roles that that particular site had in downtown Bothell, previous to the bank being there, it's kind of like this is, this particular sign is rather one-sided in terms of just reflecting the mid-century modern. That's really important, and not just for this site. We have other sites, even in downtown, where we're going to need to do this. But we also need to honor the previous historic references for that site. And I think that's really important. And the sign, given the size of the sign you're doing, I think that would be really good to add that, like at least a 1/3, 2/3.
So if I may ask a clarifying question to that, are there other examples in the city where that same kind of historical layering has been successfully executed? Because I'm asking for two reasons. One, this is the fourth, fifth, sixth project that we've done, and I think that's the first time that where we've had that request. So I'm just curious if that's been something
Well,
that's been more.
we haven't had one where the only focus of the historic signage is one level like this is, where it's just mid-century modern. I mean, that site was an important site previous to that in the downtown and in the development of the city. And this particular signage just doesn't even reflect that. And rather than do two separate signs, one that reflects the historic context of the corner, I think it would be better, in my vision, just to see the continuity of that, including the mid-century modern. Mid-century modern is, a 60-year continuum, 70-year continuum of that. But that corner had a building on it, I believe in the 1880s, right, Sue? Sure. Yeah. So we've got at least half the time of the site with the historic context.
I think you may be correct. I think the other sites that we've had signage on have had a more or less singular sort of history. Some of the older homes were initial or very early homes built on those sites. There's references to previous history and even native uses of some areas. And I think what Vicky's asking for is that we do have pictures of early Bothell in that area that with both initial churches at the adjacent property and the Methodist church on this property, and then the stark hillsides where logging was prevalent, basically scalped the hillsides here. So those are important things, I think, to note when we're looking at any historical signage, is to try and get as full a picture. And I'm always a strong advocate for any indigenous history that we can document. This is a little far up from the river, so there's not much there that has been documented that I'm aware of. But there is other, certainly early Bothell history there. This building, and one of my concerns there is that this is right in what I would consider the core of downtown Bothell. As you can tell from my comments, I'm not at all pleased with that core being basically gutted out by a huge apartment building with no other mixed use in it on the property at all, where it has been very open space previously. The Methodist Church only occupied a portion of the property. The bank building only occupied a portion of the property, which left at various times different uses of the adjacent surrounding property. So I think that would be an important inclusion to add to the signage there.
I would actually like to get some feedback from city staff on this a little bit, only because I know when we first were discussing the history of the buildings on site, both our historical consultant, which was Studio TJP, and I believe the city and Adam were in agreement that this building was the primary focus for what's there. So I'd be curious to get a rehash of where that historical analysis came back to about why we didn't place as much emphasis in the early planning of the sign and the sign materials on that perspective. I just honestly don't remember all of it, but I know that for a long time, this has definitely been our focus. So it'd be good to
I could share with you these photos, if that is helpful at all.
So, point of order, we need to enter those into the record. Yep.
Yeah.
And also, another point of order for the board members to not engage in sidebar conversations with members of the audience, please. Thank you. Yeah, it was staff's guidance, to the applicant to really feature the mid-century modern aspect of this site. And the reason is because, for the most part, Bothell's mid-century modern heritage, collective heritage, in some instances is no longer in existence. But we felt that by pointing out the other adjacent buildings that are also in the mid-century modern vein, plus, adding a, very thoughtful explanation of the composition and the structure and the design intent and even the architect's biography, that this was a superlative interpretation of the mid-century modern. And I am not ashamed to say that that is my recommendation that I made to this applicant. Thank you.
Adam, I totally understand your position. And I'm going to still say, that said, when people are walking down our main street or visiting the city, we've had a fairly good continuity of providing walking tours and the corner signs to reflect what's there that people can see as they walk by, to engage people in the history and what was there. And it's been a really important part of that to provide the time frame, from when this was a forest through what we have present. And yes, I agree. That's why I really do like this sign. This is one of the best signs that we have the ability to provide. But I also really think we need to acknowledge what was there previously. And I personally would prefer to see it with this sign so that it's not separate, because that sign would be for what's previous to this. And when it's put in a separate place, it loses the context. So that's my input to the process.
City staff, Nick Schmeck here. My recommendation to the board would be to, when we get down to our recommendation today, would be, given the nature of where we are in the process, to add the record of today, this discussion, the suggestions from Board Member Sompe, and to have staff and the applicant work together to try to incorporate as much as you're recommending today as possible. Obviously, we're going to let the historic preservation specialists on both sides guide a lot of this with the applicant. But that would be our suggestion today, given another touch with the board to discuss details of this. Really is not within the time frame.
No,
Yeah. That would just be my suggestion for moving forward, to make sure that, staff and the applicant are empowered to go through your comments and work together on that to incorporate as much as possible.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from board members?
Not certain if my comment should be now or after we have a motion. I'll wait till after we have a motion.
Okay, I need a motion though. Because the motion, the next thing would be our motion to move
You guys
forward
can
with that.
continue discussing. There are two motions in your packet today.
Yeah.
I believe that I would recommend using the second motion, as at the very bottom, after you're going to have to read a few different things, findings of fact in the conclusion, Board Member Sompe. At the very end of that, you'll see on page 8, there's the option where it says as well as, where you could state something such as, if the board wants to include your recommendations on the record today to drive staff and applicants' design and intent and the language for the proposed mitigation sign. That would be appropriate.
Am I allowed to make the motion? Because usually we weren't.
Absolutely, you are
Oh.
welcome to.
Okay. You ready? Okay. And I have some of mine. So this is the one, the second one, at least that's what I'm going to try, because this is kind of a somewhat complicated. We didn't make it as easy as you previously did. Okay. City of Bothell Landmark Preservation requests the applicant coordinate fulfillment of the mitigation measures with the City of Bothell staff to include the expansion.
Pardon me.
Oh.
Please start by reading in the findings of fact into the record as well, please.
Sorry,
My
Adam.
apologies. Thank you. Yeah, I apologize that this is very long, but, because of the nature of the continuing quasi-judicial proceeding, we need to have that on the record for this case. Thank you.
Board Member Sompe, starting on page 5, you'll see where it says
Yeah.
draft motion, and then you'll just read what's bolded, and then you'll flip to the next page. At the very bottom, it says option 2. You'll start there.
To the next page on
Yeah,
6,
page 6
where it
of
says
10, bottom
option
of
2.
page 6
Yes.
of 10.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Draft motion. Move to approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law as follows. The applicant proposes to demolish the Northshore National Bank Wells Fargo building at 1020 Main Street, Bothell, Washington, a historic resource identified in the Bothell Historic Inventory, eligible for listing in the Bothell Register of Historic Landmarks. BRHL. The applicant completed and submitted a report documenting the structure as a whole, yes, and in individual architectural features in photographs, drawings, and text in accordance with Bothell's Property Research Guide per BMC 2228-060A. Number 3, the applicant completed an analysis of alternatives to demolishing the existing building pursuant to BMC 2228-060A3 but determined that none of the demolition alternatives were feasible. The applicant has proposed 4 mitigation measures, which consist of reuse of historic features salvaged from the building interior, installation of an abstract wall mural and commemorative plaque on the new building, installation of an abstract artistic representation of the structural frame design of the existing building, and the installation of interpretive signage within the central south-facing public courtyard along Main Street. Number 5, the Bothell Landmark Preservation Board convened a hearing on February 27, 2024, continued that discussion to May 26, 2024, and then further to April 23, 2024. 6, the Bothell Landmark Preservation Board considered a record consisting of the applicant's proposal, city staff's recommendation, submitted public comments, and public testimony and city staff, and applicant presentations received at the hearing on February 27, 2024, as continued to March 26, 2024. 7, during the March 26, 2024 meeting, the applicants and the board did not agree to an extension of period on negotiation of alternatives to demolition, thus ending the 45-day negotiation period provided by BMC 2228-060C. 8, since no alternative to demolition was found, by continuing the matter to April 23, 2024 meeting, the board took up to 45 additional days to develop mitigating measures, e.g., to salvage significant architectural features of the building, install historic markers or plaques, prepare publications, etc., that provide historic context of the site, and to conform sufficient documentation of the building before the demolition permit is issued. Findings of fact.
Conclusions.
Oh, I get to
Thank
read
you.
those too. Are you giving me a literacy test? I'm just kidding.
No, absolutely. No. It's apologies.
It's
very
okay, Adam. Conclusions. BMC 2228-060C requires the Landmark Preservation Board to develop mitigating measures if alternative to demolition is infeasible. During the February 27, 2024, March 26, 2024, and April 23, 2024 meetings of the Bothell Landmark Preservation Board, the board reviewed the applicant's proposed mitigation measures for demolition of the existing building. Pursuant to BMC 2228-060C, the City of Bothell Landmark Preservation Board recommends the 4 mitigation measures below. Reuse the historic features salvaged from the building interior, installation of an abstract wall mural and commemorative plaque on the new building, installation of an abstract artistic representation of the structural frame design of the existing building, and the installation of interpretive signage within the central south-facing public courtyard along Main Street. The City of Bothell Landmark Preservation Board requests the applicant coordinate fulfillment of these measures with City of Bothell staff. And wait a second. I just have to get to where I wrote down some things. And comment. Plus the recommendation from the comments previous in this discussion this evening, April 23, 2024, and that there be an expansion of the signage to include early 19th and 20th century historic references to the site for the corner and for the 4 adjacent properties. And adding any, how do I explain that one?
Would it be appropriate for us to add into the mitigation measures that no demolition permit be issued until a building permit is issued?
No, we can't do that.
We, at the end of the At the end of today, the
Yeah.
permit may be issued, given your recommendation, or at the end of the 45-day period, which ends on May 10th. Per the code, the demolition permit can be released.
So even though
There's
we,
no conditions that can be inflicted from this board.
Yeah,
so even if the applicant were to choose not to build the structure they proposed, the building would still be demolished and removed. Is that what you're saying?
The applicant and the owner of the property is well within their right to withdraw their demolition application or receive an approval and not demolish the building. That would fall within our codes and regulations for demolition and type 1 permits.
But they could proceed to demolish the building and then sell the property.
Hypothetically, they may be able to demolish the building pending the approval of their demolition permit, yes.
but they've gone through the process, right? I think I've got it summarized. You approve, Adam?
No,
Okay.
yeah, it provides sufficient guidance to staff. I mean,
Okay.
the intent of the board, particularly in regard to the signage, is constructive and very helpful for us to be able to
Okay.
approve that.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
the motion is appropriate for that.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it is appropriate.
Okay, so we've got the motion read. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Member Thomas?
Is there a discussion then?
Oh, do we have a discussion? Yeah.
If you like, yes. If you
Yes.
want to
I'm
speak
sorry.
up, please turn your mic on.
I'm going to read a statement, which will indicate how I'm going to vote on this as well. There are contradictions in our codes and zoning as presented to the Landmarks Preservation Board at our previous meetings. City planners and the applicant have erred in failing to recognize and properly weigh the Bothell City Code pertaining to the downtown core and protect the historic nature of this area and adjacent structures, aspects, and visual and spatial relationships. Churches are allowed in low-density residential areas. The presence of 2 churches, one with a preschool and similarly constructed buildings, preserve and identify an historically low-density residential and mixed low-volume retail area. These historical factors should have prohibited current planning as presented. Additionally, the history of the church being built in residentially zoned areas and the fact that the area of First Lutheran Church was residentially zoned when it was built add to the legal and zoning concerns. From an historic perspective, the First Lutheran Church is a residential property and thus should require present multifamily and commercial buildings to have at least a 35-foot setback and probably more. This requires a more complete study by our legal and historical experts than has been presented to the board. This leaves both the city and the developer open to further controversy and potential legal action. Additionally, the historic character of downtown Bothell has for a century included small retail businesses from the Bothell-Everett Highway Road to the current University of Washington Bothell Cascadia campus area along Main Street and Beardsley. Mitigation proposals for demolition of an historic and compliant building must include aspects and elevations, retail space, traffic impacts that are consistent with and conducive to the historic nature of the area. The code is to reflect the interests and the concerns of the community and must be considered in its totality. The administration and the developer have a responsibility beyond the letter of particular parts of the code and a responsibility to the spirit and history of the community. I strongly support multifamily and increased housing units. This project, as proposed, defiles and ignores the spirit of the community and its history. The architectural design is limited, flat, and blocked, apparently due to demand for maximizing units as opposed to enhancing the community. The applicants might consider adequate mitigation by retaining the original architectural firm, Bitoon. The applicant has stated there is limited demand for retail space in downtown Bothell. I have heard the opposite from other sources. Additionally, we have only been provided a conceptual drawing and not actual engineering drafts that might reveal additional impacts on surrounding historical structures. Mitigation must include the provision that no demolition will occur until a building permit has been issued. Mitigation must also include the provision that no pilings may be driven into the property and only boring for pilings will be allowed in order to protect other adjacent historic properties and structures. applicant might consider sale to the city or community to preserve the building as commercial or even as a downtown core historical museum with retail space and repurposing of the property. As noted in the photo provided, far smaller communities than Bothell have retained and repurposed centrally located bank buildings. I cannot vote in favor of the mitigations proposed by the applicant at this point. I believe the city of Bothell should negotiate with the applicant, recognizing the current interpretation of the zoning is in error, and reach a settlement with the applicant to preserve the historic character of downtown Bothell. Considering the above noted, I would seek an additional delay of 45 days for the applicant to consider and present additional mitigations and proposals. I am submitting photos of buildings that may not be entirely feasible on this property, but nevertheless incorporate or reflect aspects of design in mid-century modern style, varied elevations, visual openness, and varied lines, and include retail space and ease of access to open areas. Communities deserve better, and we need to begin to demand better. References including but not limited to BMC 12.64.505, BMC 22.28.010, BMC 22.28.020. Well, we haven't actually called for a vote yet. That was discussion purposes to share with the rest of the board. So unless anybody else has comments, I guess you can proceed with the vote.
Sorry, I turned it off. Any other comments from the board? Okay. So we'll do the roll call. Member Thomas?
Nay.
Nay. Member Salazar?
Nay.
Member Sompi? Yay. Member Burgess?
Yay.
Motion fails. The bylaws require a majority of those present for voting matters.
Suggestions?
You can continue discussion with each other, or the chair can, it's up to you, Chair, to continue discussion if you like, open it up, or you can open it for another vote after
Yeah.
necessary discussion if you believe that a board member has changed their vote, or if any time any of the board members who voted no or yes has changed their mind and would like to vote differently, you can indicate to the chair. Staff will look at the bylaws to see what the next steps would be if there is a 2-2 split. But if you'd like to
I think you
continue
better look
discussion,
and see what the bylaws are.
we will.
Haven't had this one before.
So my recollection, Eileen Kiefer, interim city attorney, my recollection of the bylaws, I have snippets here, it just says, it tells you what happens when there's a vote, right? Generally, any motion or other voting matter, unless otherwise specified, needs to be by affirmative vote of the majority of members. Typically, if you have a motion fails, then yes. Nick got it exactly right. You have more discussion, you take additional votes if you want.
Is there any more discussion among the board?
I guess staff would like to add that, you guys are within your 45-day period. This ending on May 10th, we move forward. This is the board's opportunity to put as much as they want on the record, to give direction and recommendation to the applicant and to the staff to work together to derive at an end goal that you guys see fit, but also follows the code. So what I would say is, once again, from a staff standpoint, this is your opportunity for this board to put their thumb on and their fingerprint on this just recommendation for the materials in front of you, of any other suggestions for alteration. I liked the idea of adding and the suggestions for what the content of the sign. But anything else that you can suggest to us to work on, once again, the applicant would be working with staff moving forward, but
Yes.
at least it would be on the on the record of direction, so we can take your guidance into consideration.
You're welcome to these materials here. This is the statement plus the photos and.
We'll be adding in the statement written today into the record, as well as the photos. I plan, once again, city staff member Nick Schmeck here, I plan to take pictures with my phone of the photos that you prepared, so you can take those home with you. And I would love to take the drafts of your written statements today. Also, if you have a digital version, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Thank you.
I don't have it with me, but yes, why?
Yeah.
So for purposes of board member discussion, is my understanding correct that if we don't pass a motion here, the May 10th deadline is going to release, so whether we come to some sort of a motion and pass that or not, either way, the building demolition permit will advance.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
So when we pass a motion, then at least our comment is on the record and considered by the city staff and kind of included. And if we don't, then any of our additional comments are not part of this discussion going further.
They are part of the discussion because they're part of the record,
Okay.
but they don't have as much weight.
I guess
Essentially.
discussion isn't the right word, but there's not going to be any sort of consideration of those, from staff and the owners.
I think, to put it very frankly, there just would be no recommendation from the
Sure.
board.
I guess
Yeah.
that's the words that I was looking
That's-
for. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the succinct version.
I guess I should have asked this before when I'm reading through the materials and looking at this. I know when you go through demolition, you've got asbestos concerns and different things like that. So you're not sure exactly what you can, if anything, kind of take from the existing structure. And you've identified the bank vault safety deposit boxes. Is there anything else that you think could be probable that you could salvage from the actual structure?
There have been some other elements that we have considered, but preliminary investigations have yielded that there's no way to guarantee that they will survive the reclamation. And thus they were removed from proposal for mitigation so that we have some flexibility to try and get them, right? We don't want to promise something and not deliver on it. Unfortunately, like there are other elements, for example, of the safe itself, it turns out that things like welded together. In part, right? That's the point, is not supposed to, you can break into it. So much as we'd love to steal parts of it, it's not looking likely that we would be able to successfully do that. So to the extent we can, we will look for those opportunities, but the safety deposit boxes were one of the easiest ones to address, just because they're already a pre-made structure, they're already large boxes, they're heavy, but they can be fairly easily disassembled and moved, in a manual manner, and that would at least lend itself to integration with the structure and the interiors.
Thank you. Any other comments, Ray?
I've offered, I
Okay,
think, everything
yeah.
that I can offer at this point.
Member Salazar, do you have any comments?
I'm just in agreement in adding to the plaque the historic landscape and to have some sort of mention of what was there prior to any buildings. So just an agreement with the board on that. That's all that I have at this time.
Okay.
And I would respond to that, Board Member Salazar, that staff will definitely be working with the applicant to incorporate where the historic preservation specialists on their side and our team see fit to include as much as that as possible in the design of the revised board. Absolutely.
Yeah, staff is very much
Got it. Thank you.
appreciative of the direction, that the board has given staff. We are very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Nick. My thoughts are to let the vote stand. That's the position of the board at this particular time. We're cognizant of the fact that it's a little bit ambiguous, but we do trust staff to work on behalf of the city to provide the mitigations that are appropriate, and they are listed here, and they've been agreed upon previously. So I think in this case, it would be good to let the vote stand. Is that appropriate? I mean, I think that we can go from there and move on.
Staff would always recommend the board to come up with an approval and a recommendation. I mean, given all of the information in front of you. But yeah, that's within your guys' prerogative. You might be wanting to call for at least one more vote. We've had some
Okay.
discussion. I'm not.
I can call for
you want the chair, but
for the record, I will call for another vote.
And just real quick before we do that, again, so I guess specific to Board Member Andrew, if you're in agreement with the recommendations of expanding the signage, that's what we're putting in the motion.
And that's
And
the change.
so, if we're voting yes on the change to that motion and including those recommendations, that's how the city staff could take that under consideration. So,
Any other questions from the board?
Well, I guess
Please turn on your microphone. Board Member Thomas, please turn on your microphone and speak into your microphone.
I don't want anyone to interpret that the staff and the applicant will not take into consideration the unanimous opinion of the board that the signage should include an expansion of the history of the area. So I don't think voting in favor of the motion impacts that one way or the other, really.
Do you have a comment?
Okay. Eileen Kiefer again. I think you guys have a good grasp on it. If the motion stands as now, there is no official recommendation from the LPB. If you do pass a motion, then that would be the official action by the board on the sign. Without a recommendation, we don't have, we have discussion and we know kind of how you all feel, but there's no official vote as to this was the direction from the board. I hope that helps.
Okay, I will call for a new vote, and I just want to reiterate what you just said, that essentially this vote and the proposal are to provide a recommendation for the staff to work with the clients to provide the, let me get back to what we want to call it. The mitigations, the 4 mitigations with the amended mitigation for providing on the signage more historic background and detail. So I'm going to call for another vote. Member Thomas?
No.
Member Salazar?
Aye.
Member Sompi? Aye. Member Burgess? Sorry.
aye.
Motion's been approved, and the motion passes. And we can move on to new business when you're ready.
All right, item 5 for new business for today. We are here per our bylaws. We are required, as of April, this board, the Landmark Preservation Board, shall do their election of Landmark Preservation Board officers, specifically voting for the chair and vice chair. I guess staff would like to just add into the record today that we do only have 4 of 7. And our sitting chair is
Not present.
not present today.
Oh, sorry, one more procedural note. We were talking about how many members does it take for an affirmative vote? And the bylaws say most of the time it's a majority of those present. This is one of those exceptions. Election has to be my majority of the membership. So just a procedural note, any election of officers today has to be unanimous based on the numbers that are here.
Can we delay this till next meeting,
I think
please?
a delay would be a great idea, Board Member Sompi. We can
Thank-
delay this to the next regular scheduled meeting.
Right.
And so if you guys want to make a motion to delay to the next regular scheduled meeting, and specifically, I would say next regular scheduled meeting, as we're not aware if we're going to have a meeting next month.
We will.
But
We will.
We
because
may
you're
not,
gonna-
but-
Yeah, so there is going to be a meeting next month, you know,
Okay.
just to put it into the record. And that is specifically to re-review the amended bylaws, which were not approved in December.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's come back.
Yeah, it was, the board rejected the language and added language, and so I've got to add that language so that you
Okay.
guys can look at it again.
When you say the board, you mean the council?
No,
No,
it's the
you,
board.
Oh, we
yeah,
rejected the language. Oh,
you
okay.
rejected it at the December 2023
I didn't remember being
meeting.
too excited about it, but
Yeah, well, I mean, and I mean, to be fair, that was a pretty full agenda, right? Because,
Yeah.
you know, you were reviewing, you know, one of the 2 landmark nominations that you reviewed last year. So, you know, understandable. But yeah, just to kind of give a preview, you know, of the continuance of this particular item on the agenda is that you will be re-reviewing your bylaws at the next meeting in May, which is, I forget which day.
Fourth Tuesday,
Board Member
whatever.
Thomas, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone vote on
Election.
board member elections until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
I second.
It's been moved and approved to, no, it hasn't been approved, excuse me. I wanted, sorry. Yes. I had to get to the right page. That was part of it. Okay. Restate the motion. So we've had a motion to move the election for board members to next month, and it's been moved and approved. I'm going to call the roll. Member Thomas?
Aye.
Member Burgess?
Aye.
Member Salazar?
Aye.
Member Sompi? Aye. The motion passes. That was a good idea. Do you have staff reports?
Come on. Sorry, I covered it by saying that you were going to be having a May meeting to review your bylaws again. So I kind of jumped ahead, so apologies for
Oh,
that.
that's the report from staff.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
just kind of a foreshadowing right there. Thank you.
Comment on that. Will we be getting a copy of
Yes.
the?
Yes, so
info and-
it'll be included in the agenda packet,
Okay.
you know, that we post before the meeting.
Is there any way to get that packet, or at least a preliminary packet ahead of time? Because there's quite a bit in there to read.
We imagine from here on out that there's not going to be as much in the packet. It's not going to be hundreds of pages as it's been before. It's probably going to go down to many, many fewer pages than that, correct?
I think Board Member Sompi's referring to the size of the bylaws. It is only 2-3 pages.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3
Okay, so
pages,
you're
yeah.
only dealing with that. Okay.
Yeah,
Correct.
right. Yes. Sorry, I didn't understand that. Yeah,
Yeah, I
the
just want to make
bylaws
sure
were
that we
3 or
have
4
some,
pages, yeah.
because going through there, the language is such that you really do have to go through it. Sorry, word by word.
Yeah, right.
Just a question to staff, is reviewing our bylaws an appropriate time to look at code change recommendations?
City Staff Member Nick Schmick, we will be looking at strictly the bylaws themselves, not the code. You are welcome during your reports for members or other business to indicate to staff that you would like to have that discussion, and we can get back to you about the appropriate time and manner of which we could do that. I definitely don't think we can, today's meeting, have a negotiation or discuss amendments to any codes or things like that. But once again, if you would like to add that into today's meeting, just as that's something that you are interested in, if the rest of the board is interested, we could bring back what the appropriate method to do that would be.
Thank you.
Question for our legal authority. In the past, we've gone down to a small committee and worked with your predecessors on some of the code and language. I mean, some of that was when we were writing things, but if there's any questions, I just wanted to make sure that we can work with staff in an appropriate way to do some of that.
So, Chair or Acting Chair, are you talking about code changes or are you talking about bylaw amendments?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It's partly because in the past, I was on the board when we first wrote this stuff, and there was a lot of back and forth and working out things, and then going before the council, going before the Planning Commission, going and working with them, going before council. So more extensive changes do require more extensive working time to bring in to play some some of that. I'm just trying to clarify it for.
Sure. I think we'd need to have a larger direction or a larger conversation with, first of all, the director, Jason Greenspan, possibly even with city management, just because so this is a resourcing issue. As you know, if you've developed code,
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, development of code is a big lift. And right now, too, we're in the middle of a comprehensive plan periodic update. So you can imagine Nick and all the other planners on the team are really busy. Everybody has a very full dance card. So we can take, we can visit about it. I just don't know what that would look like. As far as, like I said, this is a resourcing issue.
And go.
Oh, so, no, sorry. If I just wanted to add one thing to this discussion for the board's consideration is I specifically asked for additional suggestions and direction from Michelle Thompson, who's the Certified Local Government Coordinator with the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation in Olympia, and specifically, asked her about, how would be a way to go about doing what you are requesting this evening. And Michelle's suggestion was, and this could be something that the board could consider in conjunction with the further discussions with upper city staff, as interim city attorney Eileen has mentioned, it would be to do a code audit, hire a consultant. It would not be Willamette Cultural Resources Associates. It wouldn't be city staff. It would be an outside consultant there are consultants, who specialize in this kind of work. It's very, very technical. But as Eileen, pointed out, it is definitely a staff resourcing issue because it is a very big lift.
It's a big job.
Yeah, and so, because Michelle's point, about that is that doing an audit, would provide the board with constructive feedback by looking at multiple municipalities across the state of Washington, because you need to stay within the state of Washington
Right.
because of our particular laws. And so that would give a little bit better food for thought and context in potentially making changes. Because as it's like there are a lot of municipalities where there are criticisms of that particular code. So I just wanted to just throw that out there for, just information only, not for response.
Yeah. I appreciate that comment.
One other item too that staff wanted to add, with the comprehensive plan being underway right now, there will be several implementation strategies involved in that comprehensive plan, several of which will be updating city codes, updating policies, and a lot of that will be going in front of the city council to adopt our work plan and things like that. So I would say perhaps maybe not in the next couple meetings, but over the course, once we adopt our comprehensive plan with those implementation strategies, I can imagine that some of that will trickle down to our landmark preservation board and our other codes and policies.
And I really appreciate the answers, because since we are doing the comprehensive plan, and that's on my docket to check, to try to get to a couple of those meetings, as well as where the board sits on that. And some of your input would be well placed in some of that, in the comments and checking.
And just an FYI and a little pitch to anyone out there listening, our draft EIS was just released. Please go read it and provide any comments through Imagine Bothell. Thank you.
Good plug. Good use of resources. Okay, let me get to our current place, and thank you for your input. We're past new business. Reports from staff, reports from members. Any items that the board members would like to bring up? I will bring one up. You need to introduce yourself to us. Sorry, we sort of got that lost in the shuffle. Thank you.
Hey, that's all right. Thank you. I'm Andrew Burgess. Happy to be here. This is my first meeting. So I live right up the road, and I'm happy to be a resident of Bothell. I've got a little 15-month baby. It's my first one, me and my wife. So we're just, I don't know, great place to raise a family. So happy to be here.
And what is your profession?
I'm an attorney, and my wife is in financial sales. And
So I get to ask the question, what's your interest in historic preservation?
well, I explained a little bit, when I went through the very brief interview process, but my wife and I moved here from Cincinnati over 3 years ago now. It flies by. But back in Cincinnati, we lived in the oldest neighborhood in Cincinnati. Our first house was in a historic district. It was built in 1890, and we spent a year restoring it. And so that kind of sparked my interest in that kind of thing, learning about the process, all the rules that go along with owning something like that, and the importance of preserving all the architecture and history of neighborhoods and buildings and that sort of thing. And so that's my personal experience with that. And then additionally, I worked at very briefly in while I was in college. My best friend's family has an art restoration studio. So not building stuff, but they restore like oil paintings and ceramics and metals. So candelabras and, your statuettes and plates and things like that, and Mari, all kinds of stuff. So got just kind of like a osmosis kind of exposure to fine art and that kind of thing, and antiques through that. So it kind of all kind of goes hand in hand.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
We are. Okay.
I'm going to
Ray?
key off of what I think Nick recommended earlier, that, and we can reword this as needed, but I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to staff that we undertake to explore code revisions that would strengthen the board's role in protecting and strengthening historic preservation in Bothell, especially in historic districts. Is that too general, or?
So we are in council, clearly I have council meeting on the brain. I handled those too. So if I call you guys council members, please excuse me. We are in board member reports, so you don't need a motion. You can just kind of tell us. And again, based on what you just said, we can go back and visit with the director. Like we alluded to, it is a resourcing issue, so we can't promise anything will happen on any particular time frame, but we'll take that back to the director and to management.
I just thought with a motion, we'd have a sense that the rest of the board members are in concurrence on that or not in concurrence on that. Or
It's something that has to come up every couple of years. Well, actually about every 5 to 6 years, I think. It comes up, at least with the board. But on the other hand, I agree with Eileen that this isn't something that needs a motion because it's a discussion. At the same time, we've let them know that this is something we'd really like you guys to. It can be informally brought up with the director. My concern is this something we're going to need in order to get the resources to look for a grant?
We're not quite there yet. We're going to take your guys' suggestions today. We hear you. We're going to bring back at our next regular scheduled meeting with some direction from our higher ups, like the director, Greenspan. And once again, I do believe that we have some other things on the horizon via that implementation strategy plan through the comp plan. And we would like to give you maybe an update on that at some point. And that way we kind of know which direction the city's resources is being directed, what's in the pipeline, and perhaps what you're asking for is already being thought of. So we can give you an update.
Okay.
And just a procedural note to Board Member Thomas's thought on consensus, maybe it's appropriate to ask the other two board members who haven't spoken on it what they think, and then at least we know, we don't need an official vote on these kinds of things. We can at least see if we have board member consensus from a majority of the board.
I'll withdraw my motion in favor of further discussion.
I guess what we want to do is, Andrew, you're not completely with us, but do you have any comments?
No, I'm actually on the same page as Ray. I definitely understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have your comment. Thank you. Okay. Anybody like to entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
In this case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a tough one. And it